Good morning. I'm going to read you the next part of Mandy. This will be Mandy Chapter 6. Before I read it, though, I want to do a summary of what's happened so far. So, Mandy's a little girl. She lives in an orphanage because she's lost both of her parents. Matron Britty is the person who looks over and takes care of all the kids at the orphanage. Mandy's older at the orphanage and she's been there a while, so she kind of gets away with more things than some of the younger kids would get away with. And Mandy does have a job in a store, and she works in the store on Saturdays, and she makes a little bit of money. So one day Mandy went on an explore through the woods. She climbed the wall by the orphanage, went over into the woods and found a path, and she found a little cottage, and no one lives there, and it's kind of run down and needs to be taken care of, and it's really dirty, but she's decided to make it her own. So the first thing she did was she weeded in the garden and got rid of some weeds. And then she went to with her money that she earned from the store, she went to a flower shop and she got some flowers. And the guy at the flower shop was really, really kind and he gave them to Mandy. He charged her for a few things, but he gave her some things too so she could start planting her garden. So that's where the last part we left off was Mandy was going home with her seeds, her plants, and her watering can, and then back to the orphanage. So this is chapter 6. Mandy hid her purchases in the orchard. The staff and children at the orphanage were at lunch, so she was unobserved. She took one look at the wall and her heart sank at the thought of getting the plants over to the other side. How was she going to manage? She was too late to eat in the dining room, so she went to the kitchen and ate a sandwich and watched Alice go through the pile of dishes. She noted that Alice got a new box of soap flakes from the store cupboard. She wondered if she could persuade her to give her a package for the cottage. But one thing at a time. Alice, I need a broom. Oh, you do you? Since when did you decide to become such a housewife? Yesterday it was dusters, today it's a broom. I'd like some more dusters, too. Alice laughed. Now, Mandy, what are you up to? Oh, it's just a game. Ellie might have a broom, and I can give you some more muslin. Super! Mandy smiled. Tomorrow she would talk to Ellie. Meanwhile, Alice seemed to be in a good mood. She decided to see just how far she could go. Do you have an old saucepan or something lying around? Alice stopped her washing up. She gave Mandy a long, hard look. I might have. I've been busy right now. Ask me later. And could I take a box of soap flakes, please? Alice shook her head. No, Mandy, I'm sorry, but those things cost money, and Matron wouldn't want me to be giving things like that away. Now, I've already said I'll see if I can find a pan or something, and you'll get your dusters, but that's enough. All right. Mandy decided to change the subject. I'd like to take some bread and butter again today. I'm going to be out most of the afternoon. Alice laughed. Well, you're a fine one. All this talk about cleaning up, and the next thing you're going out. I don't know what you're up to, Mandy. You take care and be sure to be in by dinner time. Mandy promised that she would. She fetched her tea and ran into the garden looking for Jake. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry, now I completely lost my spot. All this talk about cleaning up, and the next thing you're going out. I don't know what you're up to, Mandy. Make sure to be back by dinner time. Mandy promised that she would. She fetched her tea and ran into the garden looking for Jake. She found him about to cut the edges of the front lawn. Hello, Mandy. You brought the rake back. I'm very pleased. I was wondering, Jake, could I please borrow the fork again just for today? I don't need the rake, just the fork. I didn't quite finish yesterday. I don't see why not. How's the project coming along? Fine. Mandy smiled at him. But, Jake, I need a few extra things. Oh, yeah? Like what? Well, I need twine, and I really need some gloves so the stinging nettles don't get my hands. Jake stood up and looked at her thoughtfully. This seems a very big thing you're doing. What is it, Mandy? Where is it? Mandy felt a rush of impatience. It was so maddening to have everybody asking her questions. She wished she didn't need to let anyone know that she was doing anything. I don't want to talk about it yet. Well, whatever it is, it's not around here, Jake said. We don't have a stinging nettle on the property. You better take care, my girl. Come on, I'll find you some twine. Mandy trotted along beside him. He went into the potting shed and took down a ball of twine from a shelf. About this much? And he held out a really long piece. Mandy nodded. I'll cut it into different lengths for you. And gloves. Let me see now. Jake scratched his head and looked around. So, twine is, just so you know what twine is like string that you use in the garden to tie up plants and things, or to tie things back. So it's like a different kind of string, but it's really like a type of string. Mandy's attention was caught by a large coil of rope hanging on a nail. If she could borrow it, she could use it to tie around her box of seedlings and pull them over the wall. Try these on, Jake was saying. They'll be big, but I think they'll do. Mandy held out her hand, and Jake slipped on a glove, which was at least 2 sizes too large. For what you need them for, they'll do just fine. Here's your fork and the twine. Now off you go, and be sure to bring it back by tonight. Mandy dared not ask for another thing. She ran to the orchard and hid her things, along with the seedlings and the watering can she had placed there earlier. But making sure that she was unobserved, she made her way back to the potting shed in time to see Jake going toward the front lawn, and he did not see her. She slipped into the shed and she took down the rope. After making sure the coast was still clear, she raced as quickly as she could back to the orchard. But what did Mandy just do? She just took the rope, but she didn't ask Jake for permission. That might not be a good idea. She would have to be quick. Jake could return at any moment, and some of the orphanage children might come along. She could hear their voices as they played by the kitchen garden. She took hold of the fork, stood back, and hurled it as far as she could over the wall. She heard it land with a clatter. Next, she took up the watering can and threw that too. Because it was plastic, she didn't think it could be damaged just this once. She tucked the twine and the gloves in her blouse. Unfolding the long piece of rope, she tied one end of it twice around the box of seedlings, trying to tie the knot in the very center. Then, taking careful aim, she threw the other end of the overhanging branch of the apple tree. After a couple of attempts, it went over and swung loosely. There was no one in sight. Mandy scrambled as quickly as she could to the top of the wall. She was in such a hurry and so anxious not to be seen that she scraped her knees and her hands. Very gently, she took hold of the rope and she drew the box up toward her. It swayed and bumped against the wall, and for one heart-stopping moment, Mandy felt she would lose all of her plants. Some of the packed earth spilled to the ground. She held the rope steady, and gradually the swaying stopped. Beads of perspiration stood out on her forehead. She hoped no one would see her. There was nowhere she could hide herself, and she was absolutely committed now to getting the box over the wall. It was within reach. Holding the apple tree branch with one hand, Mandy reached down and grabbed the rope firmly where it knotted at the center. She pulled it to the top of the wall and slowly let it down on the other side, playing out the rope inch by inch. She felt the box touch the ground gently, and she heaved a sigh of relief. She was down the apple tree and untying the knots in a second. Her precious plants were safe. So Mandy gradually, she tied the plants, it was like a box of plants, she tied the rope around it, she put it over the wall, and then gradually, very, very, very slowly, she let it down the other side. Now, all she had to do was return the rope and gather up the food that she had left in the orchard. She found the fork and the watering can and put them beside her seedlings. She coiled the rope and slung it over her shoulder and climbed the apple tree once more. She was just about to put her leg over the top of the wall when she heard someone calling her name. Mandy! She hunched down and prayed that she hadn't been seen. Mandy! The voice was near. Lifting her head carefully, she looked over the wall. It was Sue, wandering sadly through the orchard. Mandy bit her lip in annoyance. Why did Sue have to come along right now? Why did she have to call at the very moment when time was precious and she had so much to get done? She huddled into the tree and she kept very quiet. Sue came to a stop almost immediately. Sue came to a stop almost underneath the overhanging branch, and Mandy held her breath, feeling her head would burst. It would be so easy to respond to Sue's call. So simple to tell her about everything. But the cottage was her secret. She had found it. It belonged to her. I guess I have some friends here who want in on the video instead of letting Miss Brunel read today. Oh my goodness. I think they're lonely. The cottage was her secret. She had found it. It belonged to her. She didn't want to share. Not yet. Sue gave a big sigh. Then she wandered off, disappearing through the orchard trees. Mandy was over the wall in a second. Her legs were aching from crouching. She raced to the potting shed and hung the coil of rope back on the nail. Then, sprinting back into the orchard, she took the little package containing her tea from its hiding place under a bush. She tucked it inside her blouse and climbed the big wall for the third time that day. She was absolutely exhausted by the time she reached the cottage, but she still had a full afternoon's work to do. So, there's our little bunny picture for today. All right, you guys need to get out of the way. I gotta talk to my friends. Come on over here. All right, so for today, then I want to talk for a minute. All right, you're okay, guys, I guess. Figment was kind of big. So, Mandy's keeping a secret from Sue and from Ellie and the maid and from Jake. She's not telling anybody about the cottage. She doesn't want to have to share it, and I understand that. But I'm thinking that it must be really, really hard to keep a secret. And I was wondering today for your writing if you would have you ever kept a secret from someone? You don't have to tell me what the secret was, but you could tell me if you've ever kept a secret and then how it made you feel when you had to keep that secret. Because sometimes our parents and other people tell us, don't tell anybody, keep a secret. So just write something to me about a secret and how it makes you feel when you have to keep a secret from someone else. So Mandy has a lot of stuff she did today. She got all her seedlings over the wall. She returned the rope to Jake, so he won't know about that. So that's good. So, and then tomorrow will be chapter 7. Have a great day. Love you guys. Bye.